Hey guys, the Wild Drive right here. So, if you clicked on the video title, you're probably interested in building some sort of line drawer that'll allow you to do some pretty cool stuff. So that's exactly what this tutorial series is going to be. I'm going to attempt to build Bresenham's line drawer from the bare bones up into where we get a working circuit. We'll hook it up to a screen that we use a mod for because building a screen is pointless in a game like this, and then we will use it to prove that it works, and we will bug test and bug hunt if there's any issues as well. So I am planning to sit down and record this series over the next 2 days on this weekend. I will chop it up and then I will upload them as I edit the videos. That's my plan here, so I'd like to just crank this out. So for example, what you can see sitting in front of us here is actually 3 line drawers, and you can see here I drew a triangle. Well, actually what this is a little bit more complicated because it's 3 line drawers pipelined together to output on a screen, and there's not just one screen here, there's 4 of them, and these are all mods. So like this screen is modded in, so you can see there's 4 of them, and this screen is 256 by 256, so by having 4 I have 512 by 512. So even the biggest modded in screen wasn't big enough for me, so I combined them to do this. We have a full 24-bit color input, 8-bit red, 8-bit green, 8-bit blue. And then we have a nice feature on the screen which I requested the mod maker to add, and he was so gracious to do it, where we have not only a clock, but a flood fill. So if the input is zeros and you do flood fill, it's going to flood zeros to all of the pixels. So you have a reset. Or if you want to reset the screen to whatever color you want, you just then input the color. So what I'm doing here is I just block off the color from coming through on the reset. That's why these gates are here, so I can clear the screen basically. And then I have 3 line drawers pipelined together. So the idea here is that there's the line drawers take 1, 2, 3 ticks, but then it's 50% duty cycle, so you have to double it. So it's a 6-tick clock, 3 ticks on, 3 ticks off. So because of that, the screen here can update 1 pixel every tick. But this is getting 1 pixel every 6 ticks. So theoretically, if I had 6 line drawers, I could pipeline them together to then achieve the full bandwidth of the screen. But because when I'm drawing faces for a shape, a face only consists of 3 points that draws a triangle between it, and then you draw a bunch of faces to make your shape. For instance, on a rendering system. So because of that, I only need 3 lines. And then so I get half the maximum bandwidth available to me to drive the screen. I can, in the future, add another 3 line drawers and have it draw 2 faces at once, and then fully maximize the screen bandwidth. I may end up doing that, but that is not the point of this video. Those are what you can do with these things once you have that as a building block of a line drawer. Then you can start building some really cool shit with it. The line drawer on itself is cool, don't get me wrong, but it is still a very basic building block for more adventurous builds. So let's get started, and I will pull up what the algorithm is and how we use it. Okay, so here we are on the wiki page for Bresenham's line drawing algorithm, and I just want to review kind of why we're going, like why would you even want Bresenham's line drawing algorithm? If you already know this, feel free to skip. But I want to go over why we would need it and some advantages over the algorithm we're going to use over the one that's written here in the wiki page, because the wiki page one is very naive. So we can see here you want to generate. You have a screen consisting of pixels that you can't subdivide any further than they already are. They are the smallest subdivision that exists. So to draw a straight line, it's going to be some combination of these being on that obviously doesn't look like a straight line zoomed in, but as you walk away from it, it approaches that. And there are better approach. You can start anti-aliasing that afterwards, but that requires plotting more than 1 pixel per loop. We are just going to focus on Bresenham's line drawing algorithm, which is the crudest implementation with no anti-aliasing. So you get lines that look like this. Now the idea here is you have 2 points. You have x1, well, we'll call it x0 and y0, the initial coordinates a, and then you have the ending coordinate b, which consists of x1 and y1. And then you're telling it to draw the line from A to B, and you want it to be agnostic to the input. So A doesn't always have to be left and above B, B doesn't always have to be right and below A. You can put them anywhere, and you want it to draw the straightest line between them, and you want it to be right every freaking time. So that's the idea. The other problem with calculating a slope now is the naive way is we can do it like this, right? We can start calculating the slope like you would do it in algebra. You take the change in the y over the change in the x, and you get your slope, right? Or dx on dy, whatever. That should be dx on dy. But you have some slope that you can generate now. The issue with that is it uses division, and the problem with division is it's very slow. For each bit of division, you need an extra subtractor. So if you have a 16-bit result, you need 16 subtractors in a row. That 16 subtractor latencies your number has to propagate through to get a result. God, that's painful. Like, imagine plotting a line, and that's just to calculate one pixel position. That line consists of how many pixels? Yeah, you're in for a rough time if you use division on hardware. You can code it that way because CPUs nowadays are hitting 4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz. It's instant. But, you know, when you're running at 10 kilohertz, speed matters. Like, the efficiency of an algorithm really matters. And so people always say, why Bresenhams? Well, because we don't need to use division. So you can walk through the wiki article here, and it kind of convinces you why this is true and how they can achieve this using some error, where you compute an error function, and then you're either adding or subtracting two values of this error to kind of minimize it and maximize it within some bounds to stay within this slope, because it's an integer screen. So you're going to be bouncing above, then you're going to bounce below, and then you're going to bounce above, and then you're going to bounce below, and you're going to draw this line that kind of does this. And so you're going to use these two errors to kind of hone in the slope without ever needing to do a division, because you don't need that perfect 0.6 or you don't need a radix result, because you're working on an integer screen with integer pixels. So you can see here they start writing down some algorithms here, which, as if you read on, these only start working in certain cases. So now, like, the above case is only for octant 0, meaning octant 0 is the top right quadrant, and it has to be less than 45 degree slope to be an octant 0, right? Then octant 1 is above 45 degree slope. And then you're into quadrant 1 on the next side, where then you have another 2 octants. So Wiki starts pointing out that, like, this will start working for one case, and then you can start doing these rotations and flips and start doing these cases to kind of get it to work in all cases. Now the issue here is, you look at their complete solution somewhere in here. We can look at, say, this one here. So in their if statement here, if this condition is yada yada yada, right here, then they have to do these two things. Not only are you incrementing dx, or you're incrementing error by dx, but you're incrementing y by sy. So you have to do these two operations. You have to do two things at once. So that's 2 units you need in that loop. If you look at it here, another 2 units you need in that loop. It's just extra hardware that you need. So is there a way to factor all this crap out, that you can pull this out of the for loops and do it up in, like, pre-computing some extra functions? Like, what if you just computed a few more extra variables, and then those extra variables didn't need to then be used in this loop here because it was factored in a different way? Okay, so what if I told you that a guy named Pensy on top red rewrote Bresenhams in such a way that it does that, where we only ever have one operation per if statement, and there's a few more if statements, but they're all very easy to check. So here's how this works, and I can explain this algorithm very simply. So increment x is a boolean. It's just the sign value of the subtraction. So you do x2, or x1 I should say, minus x1. His notation's a little weird here, right? I called him points A and B before, so you can kind of think of it like that. But so you can think x1 minus x0, so dx, is it negative or is it positive? If it's positive, inc x is 0. If it's negative, inc x is 1, right? That you're taking the sign of that value and putting it there. Dx is the absolute value of that subtraction. So if you just do the subtraction, do the absolute value, and before you do the absolute value, you get the sign, you get both of these functions just off one subtractor. So absolute value and sign get you both of those results. Same here then for inc y and dy. Now you have to compare dx to dy. That's another subtractor looking at this most significant flag again. So when you look through this algorithm, you're going to realize it's just subtraction. The whole thing is just a bunch of subtractors in parallel, generating these pre-constants here. So now you have CMPT, this variable, and it's the maximum of dx or dy. So if dx is greater than dy, we're taking dx. If dy is greater than dx, we're taking dy, and that's what CMPT becomes. Inc d, we take the absolute value of this, which we already computed dx and dy, so now we have to subtract it and then take the absolute value. But we had to compare them here, which means you already did a subtraction on them, so we could pull that value there and then absolute value it. So, like, you don't have to add more hardware, you can just borrow these results, right? And then you just left shift it and then negate it, right? And there's your -2. And then inc s is 2 times the min of the dx or the dy. So you can generate these functions really easy. Then the error function is incd plus cmpd. So you generate that and that, you add them together. And now here's where the for loop starts. So you use a program counter, and basically say you branch the program counter to being x naught, y naught, the initial x and y coordinates, your starting coordinate. That's where the program counter starts at. And now you say, while this variable is greater than or equal to 0, so basically while it's not negative. So all you have to do is look for the most significant bit being true, and then you know when to stop, right? So very easy check again. So while it's not negative, plot xy. Okay, well, what is xy? Well, it's the first pixel. So x naught, y naught. Good, we're we're already starting at the right spot. We got the first right pixel, and we know it's right because it's the starting pixel. Excuse me. So now what we're going to do, we're going to subtract 1 from CMPT, so we need a decrementer. And a decrementer can be done in 2 ticks. So that is a very quick operation there. Then we could say if the error is positive, or if the error is not negative, right? Or xay is true, we're going to increment dx. Or we're going to increment x by, inc x. So if inc x was positive 1, then we're going to add x. If it's negative 1, we're going to do that. So that's why you can think of it as a program counter that's incrementing or decrementing. And then on this other one, then it's y, the same thing for y. It's either a program counter that's incrementing or decrementing, because inc x is either positive 1 or negative 1. So you don't actually have to use an adder. You could just use inc x and inc y as flags on the count up or count down part of the program counter. Then you could say, right, so this is where you start understanding how to break down code into hardware. So now you could say, if the error is still not equal to 0, then do all this crap, and then repeat. And then you're going to do this while it's not 0, and then if it is, it's done. Like it just goes and stops the clock that's on the input. It's as simple as that. And then it will never be able to start the clock again until it gets a reset signal. So that's how we're going to build this thing. So you can see that at the beginning here, from line 1 through 14 is combinational logic, and then line 15 through 25 or 26 is sequential logic, where there's registers updating, we're checking flags, and we're doing stuff. So we're going to build this stuff really, really quick, and then we're going to use these building blocks to then build the rest here, because then it'll be so simple. Anyway, so now that I broke it down, let's actually do it. Alright, hey guys, so you can see we're in game now, and we have some sort of logic thing in front of us, and I will explain what this is, why I'm doing it this way, and then how to build this bit, and then we'll stack it. So a subtractor is made from an adder where you invert the B input, and then you put 1 on the carry in input. So with this, we can make a dedicated subtractor where the B input's always inverted, which takes 1 tick. Or because we have a 1 tick XOR gate, we can just use that and just have the same effect, but then it can add or subtract for the same logic speed. So I understand for an adder, we would save a tick, right? The issue with that is then it's unsynced from the subtractor. If you're using them in parallel with each other, you'd want them to be synced. So for this case, I would just like to keep both the adder and subtractor at 4 ticks synced. And so because of that, I'm going to approach it from this angle. The other reason is this is mainly used on the constant computation and the front end, which isn't the loop logic which needs to be optimized. It's just the front end logic, which should be as general purpose as possible, so we can just copy paste as many times as we need to move on. Okay, so now moving on with it. This is a relay, which is like a piston in Minecraft, where you have a wire that can be cut or not cut, and the wire path itself doesn't get affected by the cutting action. So in terms of delay, so if the path is cut, then it's just open. The signal can't propagate. But if it's closed, it can propagate with no delay from this peg to this peg, or that peg to that peg. There's no directional preference either. There's no diode action in it. There's no preference. It's just a switch that's open or closed, and it's controlled by that terminal. Now this terminal takes 1 tick to operate that internal switch that's going to connect these pegs together, and because of that, you need to sync it. So that's why I have these delay, or what do they call it? Buffers. Yeah, buffers. So I use these to sync it, and that's how we generate this thing. So let's actually build it. So the way I build my stuff in Logic World is I often just start out with like a big thing like that. So I have space, and then I kind of rotate a board around and get it lined up on that edge there. And once I do that, I can just kind of, eat it like that. So I have some working space, right? We'll optimize later because we have board resizing. If you press V, you get resizing. You can right click, and you get some, your command wheel that you can do if you don't understand how the game works yet. Anyway, so we're basically just gonna plot that right onto that over there. So the idea here is we need to generate the half adder, and then we need to generate the inverter, and we need to sync the inverter on the other input. And what's nice is these pegs then buffer the input. So you can see we just get one to each like that. So now this is going to both inputs, and or one input of each, and that's going to one input of each. So now we get the AND of A and B, and then we get the XOR of A and B. That's going to be our invert select. So as you can see, now we can just kind of pull that back and pull that back, and now those pegs are hanging out, available to us to be used. So now what we can do is we can pull that down one, because we don't need it to be so tall. And we can move on to the next stage, where we literally put a buffer, like humping this thing, like right on top of it. Boom. And then we do the same thing there. And it looks like we do this, I believe. Yes. And now this is going to get some tricky. So what we can do is, if you're flying, double tap space and then press C, and now you can crouch. Now you can kind of see what's going on inside here. So what we're trying to do is we're buffering this carry, because this is to carry out. So like that's why it's labeled carry out here. And then that carry out gets bussed up and over there. So that's essentially what we want to do. And the reason that's true is because the carry out can also come from that end of, or this end, sorry, right here of the relay. And so it needs to be ORed in there and also come out to the carry out. And then that's the carry in coming onto that end of the XOR and into the relay. So we can face the relay right into this guy right there. And that's, oh, okay, yeah. And I think then we can do this, and pull that back, and pull this back. And then we can also pull this up. Boom. And now, to make it a little bit easier to work, we can press X, and now we can call it. Or the other thing you do is, I learned today, is you can press forward on your mouse if you have a scroll forward or a page forward for your browser on your mouse. You can press that, and we can change the color to something identifiable, because that's the movement block that we can click to move it. And now we can just kind of yeet them right next to each other and really see how we're going to connect this shit. Okay, so immediately we know that this is going to be the carry out, and the carry in is going to be somewhere here. So the way this works is the XOR has to go to the XOR input here, and then that means the carry in input has to come into here, and it also needs to come into there somehow, and it can't. So I did some trickery here like this. T, hold control to get some fine movement on it. Do that, double tap space, and then press C, and you can place a guy like right there. Beautiful. Oh. Okay, so you can hold G, and then control, and then that should reach. Beautiful. Okay. Oh, I really overworked it on this one, huh? That could have just went right there. Yeah, that's definitely cleaner. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so now we have to remember that this XOR has to come into there, and because it takes one tick, right? So it can't come from that one there, because then it would be delayed by one. That's why we're using that one to sync it with that action. So we have to do some crap like this. Boom. Okay. Now here comes the tricky part, where this is the carry out signal, and it's coming from, okay, so I'm bringing this guy over to there. God, what the heck? Yeah, because that wouldn't make it to that pin right there, so I had to make it go that way to that pin, and then that to there. Okay, so the idea here is I could have probably done that, and done. Yeah, so let's do that here. Odds are I can get away with this, and this. Maybe not. Can we? How did I actually get that through there? Oh, that's just, okay, yeah, that's smart. So we just, it somehow got placed there. Perfect. Yeah, we pull that as far back as we can like that. With this, we can try to then see where it'll maintain a connection. I guess nowhere. You can still place it there, and then we try to move this back. No, we already know that won't work. Oof, this is gonna be hard. Alright, let me figure this out. Or we could just straight up copy it from here. But that's gonna be messy, so let's see if I can figure out a better way, but I'll be right back. Okay, I honestly believe it's a simple solution, so we just take that and move it down. And we have that, I place one there, so we just hold control, do that, right? And then we have it through like that. And we can bring that right to that. So that's gonna be the carryout. And then that can go to there, and that can go to there, and that should be the carryout. So now we can test this thing. So double tap space to get out of being tiny like that. We'll do this. So now we have A and B, and we have our subtract mode, which will go to that, and the carry in, which would be this guy here. And then we can also just do carry in on its own like that. Okay, so if we want to do A, game is lagging hella hard. Oh, do I have a clock on? I don't know why it was lagging there. Anyway, yeah, so we have one on, and we get a one, that we get a carry out. If we do with a carry in on, we get a one and a carry out. Beautiful. Now we can do subtraction. We should just get a carry out and no sum. Cool. And there should be like, yep. Beautiful. Okay, cool. So that is one module right there that we have built. You can kind of yeet these things out of here. And it's a lot cleaner than that first module actually, so cool. We improved it. And it's nice having that because it gives us some stacking ability on these. Although I do wish I didn't have. Actually, wait, could we improve this a little bit more? C. No, that's not gonna work. Would that work? G R. Okay, I think that's the better way to do it then. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, baby, that's what it's all about. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, no, so yeah, that looks pretty good right there, actually. Much better than the other one. But that's not stackable, is it? It's sticking out too far. Watch this. So this is how I usually stack these things. Yep, and it's sticking out too far. So let's see. Oh, did that just break it? Okay, cool. I don't know what just happened there. V, let's make that a, oh, that won't, fucking shit. Can I do that then? Whoa. Okay, I think the game is like, I think my server is breaking the game. Don't know how that got connected there. Oh, come on. Yes. Could that just, no. Oops. Alright, so we want that to go down there and then there. Okay, so that's even better. So now we don't have that overhang there. It's a little bit cleaner. And unfortunately, we can't use the through pegs here because they will collide at too wide. So now we have a 2-wide stacking machine, and we can just press Control G, and then T, E, 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 then press Shift, and then E, and then you got it right there. And then all we have to do is, if you remember, well, we could just double check again, grab an inverter or something and wire it up so we have a 1+1, see which one's carry out, and then tie that to the carry in. And boom, there's 2, right? So now, we just stack it one more time. And if you don't want to have to do that every time, then you can take the second one for some reason, and then it just lines up. I don't understand why that is how that works, but sure, we'll do that. And we'll make this thing 12 bits, just because then you can support some pretty long lines on any size screen you want. So yeah, we'll just keep stacking it and we'll send it. And this is nice because it's instant carry, which is basically ripple carry with, you know, the relays. but it's synchronous carry because of the way the relay works. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and we can just grab those and get rid of them. Alright, so now we have our adder subtractor, and that's pretty nice, compact. I'm not going to complain about that. We improved it over the last one that I had here, in my opinion. Cool. And now we can move on. So what I like to do is kind of like stack these things vertical. So like press T and like find a way to get it so it's standing up like that. Because now when you look top down on a circuit, you'll just see like an adder, and you know that thing is 12 bits, or there's adder subtractor, and you know it's 12 bits. So when you look top down on a circuit diagram that's in 2D, it looks equivalent to it in 3D. That's the reasoning for this, right? You just know every cell beneath that is exactly the same as that one, so why do you need to see them all? You know, there's no point in laying it down so you can see them all. It's just more clutter, in my opinion. That looks so much nicer. So what I usually do now, my building methods, is, you know, make a thing like this, and we'll grab, remember that's the base there, so we'll copy it. Now we need two of these. We need dx and dy. So let's see how close we can actually get them. Get them nice and close like that. And then I usually try to resize this to, and I'll size it up as I go, but I like keeping the boards kind of, you know, to what they need to be for now, just to make it so that everything's just sticking on the surface like that. And then try to line it up as best as possible. Sure, we'll call, oh, yeah, fuck yeah, I guess that's, oh yeah, that's perfect, okay, cool. Nice. Dye this some sort of color. And now we have dx dy. So I'm not going to worry about wiring up the inputs, other than the fact that now what we need to do is actually just, since these are permanent subtractors, we need to make it so that the carry in is on, which is, I think, that guy, right? So what we need to do is go carry in is on. That, yeah, that's the carry in. So go through and come up to the carry in. Perfect. And then we have to tie that to the to all of these inputs right here. So we basically just want to do this. And you could choose to use the other row. It doesn't matter which row you pick. Maybe it'd be smarter to do that in terms of getting the wires across. I don't know. Just gonna do it like this. Okay, cool. And then now we'll just find a way to get a. Maybe this will be the easiest way here. Cool, and now we'll do the same thing here. I'll just stick a inverter. Well, that's a, here, watch this. Problem solved. I mean, I kind of like that even better than that one, but sure, we'll have two different ones. Fuck it. Anyway, so there's dx and dy, except for it's, oh, why did I use it? Okay. We have to use a buffer, not an inverter, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's gonna change some stuff, isn't it? Actually, we could just kind of, we don't even have to use a buffer. Okay, cool. Yeah, that'll work. And we could just stick the inverter up here to make it forced to do subtraction all the time. Come on. Control G just for the sake of it. I guess it would have been easier to just probably just place it or whatever. Now it should be doing subtract, cool. And now we have the carryout right there, which we can then use if we need it, but we don't because everything will be signed through the MSB. We're dealing with signed numbers here and not unsigned numbers, which means if you want to check for, you know, A greater than B, stuff like that, you need to be looking at the most significant bit and not the carryout. Because of that, that's also why we added a lot more bits than you might actually need, because it gives you more expandability when you always need that most significant bit to actually be the signed bit. Okay, so moving on, we have dx and dy. What does the algorithm say to do? It says we need to get the sign of dx, and we need to get the sign, and then we need to take the absolute value of it. So that's really easy. So if we need the sign is the most significant bit right here. So what we can do is just, there's that, boom, boom, and we can even be so courteous to ourselves to explain it, what this is, so when we look back later we aren't confused as fuck. So we'll call this one dx and we'll call that dy, right? So then that would make this, excuse me, incx and incy, or inc, yeah, incx and y. So we'll go sign incx. I like to set it to the vector style, monospace, crank out that, and Control G, so you just have the same settings, and then change that to y. Cool. So that's what that flag is right there, incx and y. That tells us whether we're counting up or counting down on our program counters, which we haven't built yet. We'll get there later, but we have the adder subtractor. Okay, so next step, we want to then take the absolute value of this, which is then going to be another one of these things. So we'll just Control G, T, E, Shift E, and then E a few times, and then you can get it here. We'll space it out so we have some room to wire things up, and then we'll crank it back on itself until the wires won't reach. Anyway, what we know we're going to do now is if we have absolute value, it's it's B, 0 minus B, right? So like A is always 0, so like you don't need A. And then you're only subtracting if the most significant bit is true, right? So if the most significant bit is true, so instead of using this, we're going to say if this is true, then do that. And that should be wired up down here. Like that. And there's our absolute value unit. So like watch, if we put in value 5, we will get out 5. But now if I put in, let's say, the number -5, which would be this, and all of these, we get out 5. Just taking the absolute value of it. So now we have our absolute value machine. We have our decrementers, or our subtractors, or whatever. And so what we'll actually do now is just hold Control, select everything up like that, and just boom. Right? And then Control G, T, E, E, or Shift E, and then E afterwards, and then you can kind of, oh, it doesn't matter the spacing right now. Just get it down and wire it up. Alright, cool. And now what you can do is you can crank these back. Oops, grab the wrong thing. Crank these back. I hate this controls for this stuff. It doesn't always, it's not smooth every time. Yeah, so it'll reach one block, one away like that. None of the wires broke, everything's still lined up. Cool. We'll do the same thing here. Beautiful. Very, very nice. Okay, so now we'll give ourselves some explanation as to what these things are doing. So we'll write dx, we'll use lowercase, crank out the size, that, press V on it and eat it. Whoops. V, get it like that, yeah. Then we'll grab it down. Center it like that, I guess. Alright, Control G. X. And we'll just put ABS around it. Control G. Stick that on this. DY. For consistency. Make that the same location. And we'll make that DY. Okay, cool. So now we have some explanation of what's going on, what we got for a unit so far. Beautiful. That looks great. And if you notice it, that's 4 and 8 ticks so far of delay, but it doesn't matter because it's on the front end of this thing. It's not the loop. The loop will be optimized. Don't worry. We'll be using some better logic for that. Like, I mean, this shit can all be optimized too. I mean, you can really go optimize. Like, you just need 2's comp can be done without using a subtractor, right? Like, and it can be a little quicker. I have some units literally over there that do that. Like, that's not the point. The point is, like, we could just use one unit over and over with very little modification and just crank out a unit that works for us, and it still looks really good. So we got pretty far. We don't need these things here. That is no longer needed because that's not true, and we don't need these flags coming off here anymore. Beautiful. So what's next in our algorithm here? We need to now check if dx is greater than dy. So we're going to have, and you can see we have to do a bunch of things on this. Basically, what we're going to do is going to have a bus that has dx and dy on it, and that bus is going to be called A and B, and that A and B is going to go to the A input and the B input of the units that are going to be on it, and there's going to be 4 units on it: the comparing, the maximum, the absolute value, and the minimum. So you'll see. So we'll get started on that in the next episode, where we'll continue building the devices we need to actually generate this line drawer, and we'll work on the program counter in the tutorial series after that. Then hopefully by episode 4 it should be nearing completion, and hopefully done on episode 4. If not, we'll move it to episode 5 if we need to. Anyway, thanks for watching, hope you guys subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.